Now, if you and your wife had already spent tens of millions of dollars on swanky oceanfront properties in Hawaii and Martha's Vineyard, could you really be someone who's truly worried about man-made climate change flooding those beachfront properties? Well, Barack Obama wants you to think so.
Parts of the world are becoming more dangerous to live in, triggering new migration patterns and worsening conflict around the globe. It's one of the reasons why the U.S. Pentagon and other U.S. agencies have said that climate change poses a national security threat for the U.S. and for everyone else.
Now, his appearance in Virginia couldn't save them, a call-off campaign, but now we're supposed to believe that Obama's determined to save the planet? It's all hot air and mirrors. And to really understand what's going on, we're going to provide you our own Ingram Angle translation service. Now, remember, Obama is trying to stay relevant, and I'm sure add to his mega Netflix fortune by riding this whole global Greeniac wave. But to really cash in, his friends have to get the federal government to keep the gravy train going.
I am convinced that President Biden's Build Back Better bill will be historic and a huge plus for U.S. action on climate change. Both of us have been constrained in large part by the fact that one of our two major parties has decided not only to sit on the sidelines, but express active hostility toward climate science.
Now, translation, we're done debating with any of the merits of our climate policies, not going to do it. And democracy only really works when you agree with us. And when you don't, we're going to vilify you as uncaring and anti-science. Next up, it's time to sacrifice, folks.
I can afford to give up a lot of my current lifestyle to benefit the planet, because I'll still have a lot left over. A lot of folks don't have that cushion. So that means that any climate plan worth its salt has to take these inequities into account. We have to pay attention to those embedded inequities and the politics that surrounds that.
Now, translation, get used to paying more for less. Welcome to global transfer of your wealth to the rest of the planet. It's time to lower your expectations for the global good, but hell, it's not going to affect his lifestyle. And remember, it's always about community organizing. The earlier you start, the better.
You've grown up watching many of the adults who are in positions to do something about it either act like the problem doesn't exist or refuse to make the hard decisions necessary to address it. So to all the young people out there, I want you to stay angry. I want you to stay frustrated.
Translation, your parents are idiots, so ignore them. And remember, having less freedom is good if you're going green. And next, imagine there's no country. I wonder if you can.
I recognize we're living in a moment when international cooperation has waned, a moment of greater geopolitical tension and stress, in part because of the pandemic, in part because of the rise of nationalism and tribal impulses around the world.
Translation, I didn't mention China, but don't even think we're going to worry about our national interest here at home. Now, joining me now is Victor Davis Hanson, Senior Fellow at Hoover, and Dinesh D'Souza, conservative commentator, host of the Dinesh D'Souza podcast. Dinesh, your reaction to Obama reappearing on the global stage?
Unbelievable. Here's a guy who, as you say, has been investing in beachfront property while at the same time moaning about the rising oceans. But it's not just Obama. I mean, he knows that oceanfront properties are doing very well around the world. I mean, buyers know that nothing's happening. Sellers know it. Real estate agents know it. So clearly, this climate change thing is a political phenomenon divorced from the actual behavior of people who are buying and selling property on the coast. Now, with Obama, there's always a kind of hidden agenda here. And when he puts himself forward and says something like, well, you know, I can easily pay more, he doesn't actually mean that he's going to pay more, because he could pay more right now. But he's not showing any signs of paying more himself. What he really means is the United States should pay more. So here's the anti-colonialism of Obama playing its hand. The idea here is that that we shouldn't ask the so-called developing countries. And notice, by the way, that China is counted as a poor developing country, even though China devotes a lot of its resources. They put it in the military. They put it into technological advantages over America. They're a poor developing country, and we're supposed to transfer wealth and resources toward the developing world.
Yeah, Victor, Obama had to take a shot at the United States, of course, while he was over there.
Perhaps some of you have a similar dynamic in your own countries, although generally speaking, the United States seems to have a more vigorous opposition to climate than in many other places.
Oh, I hated his little pause there, Victor. Your reaction to that?
Yeah, I think he's back to the apology tour. He's back to, you didn't build that. He's even back, I think, to his revolutionary fervor, you know, get in their face, take a gun to a knife fight. He's a little envious that his former subordinate has a far more radical revolutionary 9 months than he did in 8 years, and he thinks he's irrelevant. But what's really disturbing about that, he has no idea that this very type of vocabulary and messaging is what Jimmy Carter did to usher in Ronald Reagan, because Reagan basically said, decline is, it's a choice, it's not our fate, and we reject your choice, and we're going to go ahead and prosper, and that's what's going to happen to these people. And Dinesh is right. I mean, why wait? He could say tomorrow, I'm going to live in my Martha's Vineyard mansion and give up my Washington mansion. Or Joe Biden and Bernie can say, you know, 2 houses is fine, we don't need 3. Or Al Gore and John Kerry can say no private jets for a year, but they're not going to do that. And, you know, the American people have already cut back. They're paying double for their natural gas. They're paying 40% more for their fuel to fuel their cars. They can't walk out in their major cities in safety at night. Their border is wide open. And what do they get in reaction to that from these leaders? They're told by the Energy Secretary it's ridiculous to pump. They're told by Pete Buttigieg that the empty shelves are because of procrastination or waiting. Jen Psaki says we're waiting for a treadmill. And so and Barack Obama says worried about your schools.
Yeah,
they all dismiss the middle class. And this is a very strange phenomenon. This is a very wealthy, rich, revolutionary group of people who always preach to people, and they never are subject to their own
Victor,
ideology.
you just hit the nail on the head. And between you and Dinesh, I can't think of 2 better people who've addressed this issue of this is what Obama always wanted to do, right? Dinesh, I mean, you wrote about this. Victor, you wrote about it. This is what he always wanted to do, but he had all these inconvenient factors. He had a Republican Congress, and he had a free media that would actually publish opposition points of view. He referenced that. Watch.
Existing political institutions move slowly, even when leaders are well-intentioned. International cooperation has always been difficult. It's made more difficult by all the misinformation and propaganda that can flood out through social media these days.
Dinesh, flood out like Russia collusion? What about that?
Well, absolutely. Well, with Obama, it was some years ago, but he expressed to the New York Times a kind of a secret wish of his that he said, look, one of the beauties of being in China is you don't have to seek popular opinion. I guess what he was saying is that the dictatorial power allows you to do things that democracy doesn't allow you to do. And with Obama, it's always the same thing. I mean, under Obama, government power increased over the banks, over the investment houses, over the automobile companies, over the energy sector. And with climate change, it's the same thing. It's not about the climate. It's about moving power away from the private sector and from the individual toward the centralized state. That's always, for Obama, that's always the bottom line.
Victor, Dinesh, thank you. Great to see both of you tonight.